What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of My Team Career Mode. Today we are here for the start of the Chinese Grand Prix in our season 3, and this is round 4. So definitely a Grand Prix to look forward to, as there is the dry weather, so there is no chance of rain, and we can go with our usual setup as we are gradually improving our R&D charts, and hopefully in the upcoming races we will be able to gain some much more track positions and also gain some points for our constructors team, as we are just adjusting our setup so that we can go into the qualifying lap and gain some much needed time. So this is our first push lap, or the banker lap which you can call, and we cross the line and go P13, and I thought that is enough, and fortunately that was enough because ultimately we finished in P16. So we now move to Q2, and in this Q2 session in our first banker lap we go into P16. So obviously there was a lot of time, so I just went into the pits and put on a new set of soft tires so that we can gain some more time in this second lap. As you can see, we are almost 1.1 seconds up on our banker lap, and we cross the line and go P12. So a decent recovery drive from where we started, and we finish in P12. So obviously this is gonna be our race start, and our teammate is in back of the grid, so obviously there is a lot to improve from Fernando Alonso, as we'll be going for the alternate strategy of hard to mediums. Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez and Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz are in the top two of the grid, and our teammate is in the back of the grid. So it is 5 red lights, and away we go for the start of the Chinese Grand Prix here at Shanghai, and we just get overtaken by 2-3 cars, I would say, because the traction in this game is quite a difficult thing, and I always have some wheel spin at the start of the ground as you go down the inside of a Haas and a AlphaTauri, and we just leave enough of space for both of us to go through this twisty section of the sector 1, and we have some wheel banging with Tsunoda, but ultimately it did not lead to any damage, and we just move on in our race, as we have to be careful, otherwise we may be losing our front wing, and obviously we do not want that in the first lap of the Grand Prix itself, as we are fighting with Tsunoda, who is just eager to get forward in front of us. As fortunately here at the sector 2 itself we were able to claim the P12 position as we go down the inside of Schumacher, who just leaves enough of space and make the move stick, as we have a little bit of oversteer at the exit of the turn. So our car is still not properly balanced, and maybe this was because of the hard tires also, as I was facing some understeer. So the cold tires of the hard compound is not a good thing to drive here at this Chinese Grand Prix, and gradually as the race will progress we will be getting the optimum temperature and get the much needed moves done in the turns. Schumacher again just overtakes us, and we just go on to the anchors swiftly and just make our car rotate very well, because at this turn it is quite tricky, because if you just put on your throttle too much it will just send you into wheel spin, and we obviously do not want that. So for that reason I was just very cautious on that penultimate turn so that we do not just lose the back end of our car, as now we are going in this twisty sector 1 and Tsunoda is in front of us, and obviously this is a challenging sector because this puts a lot of stress on the tires, and it also gets heated up very well, and since I'm playing in the controller, so if you just lose a bit of traction it can send your car into spinella, and we do not want that here at the round 4 of season 3. So I'm just following Tsunoda and recharging my ERS, because ERS is very limited in this circuit, and it is quite easy to deplete all your ERS by just trying to overtake another car in front of us. So we have to be careful of that, as I'm just using my ERS to stay in the DRS train of Tsunoda, and obviously I'm just hoping that we can claim such positions back in the upcoming laps, as right now in the lap 9 we are at a comfortable position of P11, and I was thinking that we should undercut some of the other constructors teams, because in this game undercut works much better than the previous games, and I was thinking that maybe I will go into the pits at the end of lap 13 or 14 so that I can get the much needed medium tires, which are quite faster than the hard tires which we are now. So I was thinking of going down instead of Tsunoda at this turn, but we are too far back to make a dive bomb, and we also get a bit of oversteer at the exit, so which makes us lose another 2/10 of a second there. So we have to be careful with the throttle application at the penultimate turn, as now we are just sensing an opportunity to going down the inside at this turn 1, but we are too far away, and I will not be taking a risk to make some silly moves here. So right now we are just following Tsunoda, and we are trying to just measure our chances, because obviously he is in the medium tires, so his tires will definitely drop off in the next coming 2 laps I think. So prior to that only we have to make a move and get ahead of him in the track position so that we can do some undercut over the other teams. So that was my game plan here at the lap 11, and here you can see in the twisty sections we are just falling very closely to Tsunoda, and the main thing that I was focusing upon is to recharge my ERS and be in the DRS of Sonoda, and which we are definitely doing it. We have almost 45% DRS, so that is sufficient if we think of making an overtake in the long back straight or in the start finish straight also. So we have to be just mindful of the ERS levels, and we can be very careful with our throttle application, as right now we are just trying to gain at least 1 point from this race so that we can stay ahead of the Williams in the constructors champion, because Williams Albon is just behind us, and he will just overtakes us and also overtakes Tsunoda, so he may get the 1 point. So we should try to avoid the Williams from getting those crucial points in the championship hunt. So I was thinking that maybe I should just save my tires and also try to overtake Tsunoda as we go around the outside at this sector 1, and we just make the mistake as this outside turns into the inside, and we make the mistake by just blocking the path of Tsunoda and covering the apex. But Tsunoda has an AlphaTauri which is much superior car to us, so he makes the move stick around the outside, and we just make the move down the inside of Tsunoda at this sector 1, and we make the move stick. So fortunately this was what is needed, I would say, because our hard tires are still quite decent enough, as Tsunoda was thinking of going down the inside at this penultimate turn, but we just cover off the apex and we leave no room for Tsunoda to make that overtake. So I just tried to cover off the apex because that is the place where the other teams are just going for a move. So here at the lap 13, I was thinking that in the next lap itself I should go for the pits, because that is the opportunity where we can do some undercut, as Tsunoda was just trying to send one down the at this 90-degree left-hander. So I just cover off the apex again, and Tsunoda found it difficult to just gain the traction and make the move stick. But again in the back straight you can see Tsunoda is just ahead of us, and our tire wear is also creeping in, so we have to be careful of that as we just make a move down the inside. We did not make any contact, I think. Yeah, we did not make any contact, just a clean move. Respectful racing, I would say, because we left enough room for each other, and it was a decent move, I would say, as we go into the pits at the end of lap 13, and we will be putting on a new set of medium tires. So hopefully this stint we will be able to gain some more positions, as this is much faster tire, and obviously we cannot use the soft tires because they degrade very fast, and so the medium tires is the only opportunity we have to make some more positions, as right now we are at P16 and some of the cars will definitely go into the pits, as our teammate also goes into the pits. So now Alonso, Schwartzman and Dragovic and Latifi are in the pits, so we undercut every one of them and we are back into P11 position. So the aim is now that we should just overtake Ocon and Stroll. So Ocon goes into the pits and we get into P10 position, and now Lance Stroll is just ahead of us, but we get a DRS failure. So that is immaterial to us because obviously we are not in the position to gain some DRS from the cars in front of us, as we are not in a 1 second range of the cars in front of us. So the DRS failure is not an issue and it gets rectified after a couple of laps. And I was thinking that why Verstappen is slow. So the radio engineer says that Verstappen is having some engine issues, so that is the reason why he's dropping off the pace from Lance Stroll. And I was sensing that if the engine issue of the Red Bull persists, we can at least gain P9 position. So I was pushing very hard in this lap. As you can see, we were almost having some Spinella moment here, as the car was just oversteering at this sector 1 in the S section, I would say. And we have to be careful of that, as Verstappen is just dropping off the pace, and now gradually his pace is increasing, which shows that the Red Bull engine is definitely rectifying its errors, and I think they are working on the whatever glitches they have in the engine. So Verstappen is again up to the pace and he's catching on to the back of Lance Stroll, as Carlos Sainz is out of the session. So the Ferrari just gets a DNF here at the Chinese Grand Prix, and it is an unfortunate day for the young Spaniard. So he just parks the car right at the left turn here at the back straight, and I just was thinking that since Carlos Sainz is just in front of us to get into P9 position, so it gives again another position for us to free, and it also gives another free position to us. So right now we are at P9, and I was thinking that if we can overtake Stroll, but I think it is a too far-fetched idea, because obviously Stroll is 5.7 seconds in front of us, and in 1.5 lap it is very difficult to gain those positions, as Stroll even furthers his time difference. So I think this is our position which we can claim in P9, and obviously this is a good result, I would say, because obviously we started in P12 and we just undercut a lot of other cars, as we are also having some fuel deficit. So I put on enough of fuel for this race, but still we have a fuel deficit. So you guys can check out that the Mercedes engine is not as high mileage giving as the Renault engine, so we have to be careful of that in the upcoming races, as well as we are pushing too hard. So that might be the reason why we were having some deficit in the fuel. As George Russell gets the driver of the day and Sergio Perez wins here at the Chinese Grand Prix. We finished in P9 from P12, so it was a decent recovery drive as Fernando Alonso is in P16, so he also did a remarkable drive from P22. As we move up in the Drivers' Championship by 1 point as we go into P13, so we are ahead of Albon, and in the constructors also we are in P8 position, and we just go ahead of Williams, Alfa Romeo, and Aston Martin. So now it's a competition between me, Haas, and AlphaTauri. So in the upcoming races, we'll be trying to gain some more constructors points so that we can move up the ladder in the constructors championships, and we'll be having some R&D upgrades to do and some departmental events as we are just preparing ourselves for the next Grand Prix, which will be at Spain. So which will be Alonso's home Grand Prix. So hopefully he can turn around the things and gain some points for us in the team as we do some funding activity for the aerodynamic section, and we make the most stick, and we also do the corresponding R&D upgrades for the other sections as well, so that we can improve our car right up the ladder in the R&D chart. So thank you guys for watching this video, and hit like and do subscribe for daily F122 content, and we will meet you again in the next video, which will be at the Spanish Grand Prix. So till then, peace.